Welcome to episode 517 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and usually I do my academy updates in the summer and the winter break because these are kids at the lower levels. Just be patient, give it a second. But this year, Barcelona went forward with 21 first-teamers and have had a ton of injuries. Oh, and also a bunch of academy kids are really special all at the same time. And since things can change very quickly for 16-year-olds and where they even fit between what used to be the U16s, U18s, U19s, Barça Atletic, first team, you can throw out the U whatevers because different kids at different ages are all in these different groups, and it's impossible to keep track this year. And they're also jumping between the teams and all that stuff. So I felt like it was already appropriate to talk again about Masia and all the different moving parts of some of these kids that are especially training with the first team. And to help me do this is one of the best on, even though Twitter and X is not the best anymore, one of the best follows on there for the academy for everything happening at FC Barcelona is ArsenkveFCB from Barça Buzz. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And I think what we actually want to even start with before we dive into the academy and list players, I think really the true main focus of this team is talking about young player minutes as well. Because for the first time in a long time, ArsenkveFCB, it seems like a lot of these young players are good enough for the first team. Like, it's not like you're throwing them in because they're needed. They're actually good enough and pushing into the first team. But now Xavi's being questioned with, you only have 21 first teamers, but how do you manage the young players' minutes with the first team? And we really are talking about Lamine Yamal here with this first opening question, because between La Liga and the Champions League, he's already played 11 matches, 1 goal, 2 assists, already 591 total minutes, almost 600 total minutes already. We're midway through October. And here's the comparison to the last 17-year-old who regularly played around the first team as a forward that really turned out to be a star. So not the midfielders, not Gabi and Pedri, but the last forward. That was Messi's year 17, and he had 25 total matches and 1,415 minutes. So Lamine Yamal is on pace to hit 2,000 minutes, 500 more minutes than what Messi played when he was a year older. The one caveat I'll add, though, is that Messi went down with a muscle injury in March that kept him out for the rest of the season. As people remember, he did not feature in the 2006 Champions League final because he was out for the rest of the season at that time. So Lamine Yamal is actually pretty on track to be about at the same point where Messi was when he went down that March in 2006. When you say manage minutes, I think we do this a lot, right? They want to protect the kid, and they say that maybe Spain's not doing that by making him fly out the Spanish national camp, getting checked by the REF doctors, and sent right back to Catalonia, which was kind of a bit of nonsense for him to do all that travel. But when you hear manage young players' minutes with the first team, and you're talking about a 16-year-old in Lamine Yamal, what does that mean to you? Is there a number? Is there like a circumstance? Like, what does that actually mean that Xavi's doing to manage minutes?
Well, that's like a quite difficult topic because, Savi already said that, if he doesn't play Lamine, fans complain, but if he plays him too much, the fans complain as well. So how do you find that middle ground? Like for Lamine, you have to see how he feels. If he's capable to play, if not, if it's like if he has muscle overload or something like that, like you have to see based on like his feelings as well. Yeah, like this topic is quite difficult because like Lamine is he was still also adapting to juvenile A. Like he struggled a bit as well with confidence at the beginning, but when he took off, he was scoring, assisting, creating chances. While the number is still not showing up for the first team, but they will eventually.
Well, you're talking about him last year when he was a 15-year-old playing with the U19s,
Yeah.
which is, again, like, and say the struggle. What did struggle mean? It was him hitting the ground running. And yeah, I agree with you that it's really difficult to say, and it's almost out of a need thing where you hope Rafinha does get healthy, and that's why I said too, where anytime that Xavi starts Rafinha or Ferran Torres instead of Lamine Yamal on the right wing, I'm fine with it. Like I can live with that any day. Is Lamine Yamal more suited to playing the way that Xavi wants to play over Rafinha? I think we've kind of already answered that to be a yes. But Rafinha is a professional. Rafinha scores goals and picks up assists and is owed a lot of money for the club to be playing at a first team level. So it's Rafinha or Ferran Torres to me. And if you need Lamine Yamal, again, he is good enough, and it's clearly shown he's already. I mean, again, a goal and 2 assists is it's little output, sure, for the 11 matches that he's played, but you could see, again, the way he imbalances defenses, the fact that he's already getting doubled on that right side is very telling to me. And then Fermin Lopez is 20. I talked about him extensively about, kind of being one of the rare, I wasn't talking about him when he was 14, 15, 16. Like, he was good and he was like, had a lot of different abilities, but he wasn't like, I did not have him pinned for the first team of FC Barcelona. I had him pinned as a first team professional because I thought he'd make it in a first division, but I didn't have him at 20 with Barca's first team. But so far, it's 6 first team matches, 1 Barça Athletic match, 1 goal, 244 total minutes, though, which isn't that many. Only 244 total minutes because you remember he got a red card, that being the 2 yellows with Barça Athletic. So we only played 47 minutes in that match, even. But yeah, for Fermin Lopez, I mean, I think the fact that Barca have 21 first teamers tells you all you need to know about how, not say how little he'll play, but what his role is going to be. He'll be a first team bench player. I mean, he might get some minutes the next few weeks, but he's a first team bench player. And that is difficult, though, for a 20-year-old because it means you're really not playing 90 minutes for Barça Athletic, or I know he wouldn't be the U19s, but on loan somewhere else. You're not paying 90 minutes week in and week out at 20 years old.
Yeah, for me, it's like he's exceeding expectation, as I said, because despite him like having the technique much better in the earlier stages than his teammates, but due to like physical development, he was very small, short, like not strong. He struggled a bit like in the later stages of the academy. However, his loan at Leones helped him a lot to develop because he still play at professional level, even though it's third division. With Linares, he developed muscle mass, physical. His work rate is fantastic as well, even though he showed that glimpse at the academy as well, and it just helped him to improve quite a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I still think he needs to improve a bit of his. I mean, which is totally fair. He's 20 years old. So we saw that last game against Granada. He's got to get up to speed with his pressing. He can't just, it seems like he was working really hard, but he didn't know necessarily where to work hard to. And it was throwing everybody else out of whack. Like I had said on that second goal, Gabi, it looked like Gabi was trying to step with him, but they stepped in the wrong direction. Like, and just those little things, like Gabi and Fermin Lopez were not pressing together the way it should be, and so Gabi's the one who looks like he made the mistake. But I mean, people pointed out to me that it was Fermin Lopez who maybe that wasn't where he was supposed to step to when he was supposed to rush the center back. In fact, it was actually what was it, Ferran Torres, who was supposed to come over and provide that pressure. Like there was that wasn't what the double lied, because that meant that there was obviously it was much easier to break through Barcelona lines that way. And those little mistakes that he'll have to learn and figure out. So let's transition now into talking, because I do talk a lot about Lamine Yamal and Fermin Lopez. So let's transition to talking about all the young players who are either on the Champions League roster. So in theory, if Barcelona do wrap up the group, we could see them make their Champions League debuts this year, or they've gotten called up to the first team bench already. So I'm going to kind of list the names as I'm going down. I'll kind of throw you one question and we'll go from there. First, for the goalkeepers, both Champions League and the Liga, under Astralaga, 2 Barça Athletic games, on the bench for 10 first team games. Again, he's the third goalkeeper. And then Champions League and the Liga, Diego Cochin, the American kid, dealt with an injury, so kind of not really just getting back up to speed. He's been on the bench for 3 Liga matches this season as well. But yeah, I mean, Cochin is 17, so there's much more, we'll say, potential for him. But Astralaga also the third goalkeeper, Cochin the fourth goalkeeper. And if anything, those are just filling out spots on the bench for Barcelona because they have so few first-team players prepared for this kind of thing. So I don't really have any notes on them unless you want to add anything. But I think, again, their needle hasn't moved really, other than you hope Cochin can get healthy.
Yeah, with Ander Astralaga, I can say that like I understand why he was renewed, because despite some hate that he gets from fans because of some mistakes that he committed in the UEFA youth leagues, the problem is with him is that he's a good league goalkeeper, but he sometimes struggles with when he gets under the pressure. So in the knockout stages, he can be making some mistakes, which is quite similar to Ter Stegen as well, that we have seen last few seasons as well. With Diego Cochin, What I can say that last year he was nominated for USA Young Player of the Year, but his teammate won it. But he's still like a fantastic player, nice guy as well. So he's a player to look out for in the future as well.
Yeah, again, as a goalkeeper being 17 with the age of Ter Stegen, like coaching would be timeline wise the guy that I look more to say, oh, okay, maybe he will be a backup or, again, very rarely does a starter come. I mean, but Victor Valdez was the one who kind of set that model that you can get a starter from the academy, but goalkeeping is all about timing and being ready for that moment. Like even Estrelaga, like he's not really playing at all because Marc Vidal is the goalkeeper for Barça Atletic, and then Jakas Bazili has been. We'll get to him, but he's been the UEFA Youth League goalkeeper as well. So Ocelot's kind of stuck in. When I say no man's land, I may just mean on the bench. Now, speaking of kind of no man's land, Marc Casado is a player that people in my YouTube comments especially will ask why are we not seeing him in the first team? And I think this is the first time I think we're getting a player, and I'm asking a direct question because he went the full 90 as a captain in 4 Barça Athletic matches because he is their captain. But then he was on the bench for the first 5 La Liga matches of the season and the 2 Champions League matches. And again, now he's been with Barça Athletic since that time. And now with the most recent injury as well, just another one. Well, we thought with Gavi you'd see Casado, but Gavi was just a knock and he'll be back with Spain. But yeah, I mean, that would be the question I would say that Marc Casado, captain for Barça Athletic, still 19 years old or just turned 20, whatever it is, right there, 19, 20. Why haven't we seen him for the first team?
Well, it always depends on the profiles. For me, I'm a big fan of Mark since his preseason at Barcelona B, because I'm a big fan of those intelligent players who positions themselves nicely. And when you watch the ball, you don't see like Casado influence at all. But when you focus on him, how he scans, how he positions himself, for me it was incredible, and I fell in love with him. And the problem is with Marc Casado is his physique, because for Barcelona's pivots you have to be tall. Romero, Busquets, even those like who are at Barça Athletic, Nico Gonzalez was also a pivot because of his physique. Even Marc Bernal also a physique, mostly due to aerial duels to windows, and that's mostly like the main point why Marcus Art is not playing as a pivot, because he's still a fantastic pivot. Like he's ball winning midfielder as well, so it's like he constantly like looks to win balls and everything. The main issue is again physique.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that with seeing him too. I think I agree with that point where I think he could be an interior. He actually reminds me of oh man, Real Valladolid. He was with the Barca B for a few years ago.
Manchu?
Manchu. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, he actually reminds me quite a bit of Manchu. Like Manchu's last year was Barca Athletic. Now Manchu at that time I think was 21. His last year was Barca B at the time. So he's a bit older than what Casado is now. But that's a player that's kind of what Casado reminds me of. Like I know people really like him, and I think he's a good enough player to be a first teamer in the Liga. Like, and that's why I said like it's not a what we are seeing is first team potential, but is a first team potential at FC Barcelona. I'm going to go through the rest of these lists, and to your point, I think the answer is ultimately no. And what can he provide this season? Maybe 1 or 2 matches, And it's also telling to me that he was registered as a defender in the Champions League because I think Xavi does see his utility as a backup right back in, and I think that I mean, even when he was registered in the Champions League, we didn't really still know what the deal with Cancelo was truly going to be, even though he was able to be registered. So, yeah, I think that Xavi does see him as a useful player and with a lot of experience for Barca Athletic as well, who is still, a teenager, but he has some utility. Now, the other end of the spectrum, no disrespect to Marc Casado, but there's a 16-year-old who was registered for the Champions League and has been on the bench now twice in the Liga against Villarreal and Osasuna and has started 4 times for Barça Athletic and played the full 90 in UEFA Youth League against Porto. Pau Cubarsi at 16 years old. This kid, he's not that tall, so he's only Eric Garcia tall, which would be my one concern. I'll say that. However, this guy on the ball, his timing, I mean, he truly looks like Andres Christensen already. Like, that is who he's reminding me of, like, immediately. Like, I see Pau Cubarsi, the decisions he's making, and I think he's has the potential certainly, and maybe at the level he's playing at, when you say the UEFA Youth League, his ball playing ability is already at better than what Christensen's might have been when I saw him with Chelsea's Youth League team. I'm dating myself, but anyway, when I saw a few years ago when I saw Christensen playing for Chelsea's Youth League team, I think Cubarsi at 16 is already potentially better at playing a ball than that. And I don't want to kind of pigeonhole him to that comparison, but I don't see a weakness in his game. And if he grows, again, he's 16. If he grows an inch or two, I mean, Kubarsi is, to me, as I said before, other than Marc Muniesa, who was 17, already getting called to the first team, and Marc Bartra was a pretty big center back prospect as well, but not till he was like 20 years old. But Kubarsi is the youngest and best center back prospect I've seen in the academy in a long time.
Yeah, he definitely is. Like, he's one of the best center backs that like we have seen, because usually we don't see those like physical, strong center backs, because the main point of the center back is to be ball playing. And usually at the youth academy, center backs don't defend at all, because you have the possession almost like 80% of the time.
That's
So
true.
most of the defending almost done like by midfielders and
Mm-hmm.
forwards, or just by mistake by opposition. So, and recently there's more and more physical center backs that we see through coming through the academy, and we're going to see more, because there's a few other very talented center backs, but they're still quite young, still developing. So but yeah, Pau Cubarsi definitely is one to watch, as yeah, as even Xavi said that he's one for the future in a few months ago, when his contract renewal was still not done.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think he certainly was a priority for that contract renewal. And yeah, the other thing I would say about Kubarsi, but I mean, center back is really difficult to give them time. Like, again, because one mistake defines your, like, you can't destroy the confidence of a 16-year-old by throwing him in a position that, not saying he's not even ready for, but he makes a mistake. And those mistakes for a young center back like that is tenfold compared to a winger losing the ball, you know, 70 yards from his own goal. And it's just a totally different thing. But to me, yeah, to me, it's like I hear a lot about Kubarsi from accounts like yours since for the last year or two. And this is the first real year with the youth league and with Barça Atletic that I'm able to watch him regularly. And to me, I've just been, it's been the first, these last 2 months have been nice to say, like, oh, he's 16, but like, you guys are right. Like, he is the real deal here. This kid, eh, he just looks better than everybody else on the field. And he's 16 years old, which again, number wise, I just keep saying the age. It's just incredible to me. Next guy, Alex Garrido, still a teenager, still just 19. Unfortunately for him, 4 Barça Athletic matches, 1 goal, but he got hurt at the end of September, so he's hurt again. Injuries have been an issue for him. And to me, I mean, what's missing or what is needed for him if he's ever going to be a part of the first team? Like, I know he's like right on that cusp of the attacking midfielders, or can play wing. He could play interior, like he could play in multiple positions between midfield and the wings that make him useful and versatile. And that's why I think Xavi put him on the bench sometimes, and he made his debut last year. But what's missing for him to really ascend to being a first team player?
Well, for me, with Alex, what I can say that the main weakness is again physique, because he's not strong. He sometimes, like at the professional level, can get bullied off the ball despite having low center of gravity. But with the ball, he's another very fantastic player. He was among the top assisters for Juvenil A last season. Was very important in UEFA Youth League as well. uh, well, he's a fantastic interior, but again, for professional level, like, you still have to develop even physically, just like we saw with Fermin Lopez. Even though Gavi doesn't have the physique, but he's that, let's say, guardian of the midfield, always fighting for balls, no matter what, no matter who it is. With Alex, he doesn't have that, so he needs to find a different way to be able to find the top level, to play at the top level. So yeah.
Yeah, it's tough too, because I think you're starting to say, like, there's only so many minutes at the first team level, even with 21 first teamers and things. And so you begin to say, is Alex Garrido better than Fermin Lopez? Not at the moment. I mean, he's a year younger, but not at the moment. Is he better than Unai Hernandez, who we can talk about really quickly here next? Unai Hernandez was named to the bench for Real Betis. He's only 18 years old, so he's younger than Alex Garrido as well. 5 Barça Athletic games, 1 goal, 1 assist. And as an attacking midfielder, which is what both of them are, they are really like, again, winger, high interior, hybrid type things. Is Alex Guido better than Unai Hernandez, or even Unai Hernandez's potential being a year or two younger? And I mean, I think those are the questions that you begin to ask where you go, well, Xavi can only take, one of these other kids to fill out the bench at one time. And I think that becomes very difficult. Um, that was kind of a rhetorical question about the two of them, because the two next guys I want to talk about are the other two guys that were just named to the Liga bench that are kind of, let's say, very different, but they are 4 years apart, which is a crazy way to bring that to you, because Pau Victor is 21 years old, and the other guy I'm about to talk about is 4 years younger than him. But Pau Victor, 21-year-old, on loan from Girona with a purchase option, 6 Barça Athletic games, 4 goals, 1 assist, and he was on the bench for Granada. And then Marc Guiu started 2 UEFA Youth League games, had a goal in the Porto game. He was on the bench for Granada as well. He had 8 total minutes so far for Barça Athletic, but is mainly playing for the U19s. And again, he is still 17 for 2 more months. He doesn't even turn 18 until December. So I mean, it's different, right? Because Pau Victor seems like a really good piece of business for Barça Athletic if they choose to buy him, and kind of just have an option of a player who can score goals in the third division for Rafa Marquez. And then Marc G, I wouldn't say he's like top shelf center forward prospects in world football, but I can also tell you that those it doesn't like it doesn't matter. The top forward prospects, like, it's not a thing. Like, it's not. It doesn't happen. Like, Vitor Roque would technically be the other. Like, that kid would be the top prospect. Like, Endrick was a top prospect for Real Madrid, and still is. Like, but Mark G, I could say he's like in that next tier of, like, I mean, he's doing it for Spain youth teams. He's doing it at you know what I mean, at those international competitions. He's doing it for the U19s, and he's 17, and he's about to be 18. So I mean, as far as who's more useful though for Xavi would be my question. Like, if you see one of them making their debut in the Liga, which one do you think Xavi goes with?
Ooh, tough question because Pau Victor and Marc Guiu are like completely two different forwards. Because
Exactly.
Marc Guiu is a typical number nine that is finisher, your physical appearance in the box, like. And Pau Victor, he mostly played for Barça Atletic at the left wing, so it depends on the game and what do you require, but having two different players as strikers, forwards, is always useful, and the versatility of Paul Victor is also quite good because of the ball he's very good behind, always running behind the defenders, looking for space, combining with teammates, while Margu is like looking for space to finish off the ball, basically to find that goal. So also he's strong in the air because, well, it's usually unexpected for Barcelona to produce like typical number nine, because usually we got used to false nines, usually
Hmm.
played at the academy. But in recent years, again, there's more like those physical appearance in the academy. Margi, Oscar Gistau as well, that
Hmm.
tall finisher as well, but with better technique as well. So yeah, but for Xavi, I think he would prefer Paul Victor than Margi.
Yeah, I mean, I'll repeat what I said of Granada too, because people were like, "Why didn't those two kids come in late in the game?" And well, the thing I'll say is that, especially when you're trailing, right, in a game like that against Granada, and then when you're searching for the winner like that, you don't throw a 17-year-old up top and just kind of expect the best, and ask him to do things that are beyond what the expectations would be for him. Like, I mean, that's especially for forwards. Like, their job is so result based that if they score a goal, they're praised. If they do the thing that leads to the thing, then they're praised. And if not, they're like, why were they out there? And yeah, it wasn't the right situation. So I wouldn't. I can expect him to see if Barca go up 3-0 or whatever. Like, you throw the kid out there. Let's head down to Barça Athletic, because I think Pau Victor and Mark G are kind of a good transition for that. Mika Faye, an update on him. He started 5 matches at left center back for Barça Athletic. I feel like I don't have like much new on him. Like, we knew that I even knew that there were questions, I think, on how quick he'd adapt. What I will say is, in 2 months, I think he's adapted. There was almost no adaptation. That's what I want to say. There's almost no adaptation period for him. I think I was like, oh, second division in Croatia, having come from academy in Senegal, like, how quickly is it going to take him to get caught up to even the third division of Spanish football? And the answer is 0 minutes. Like, he is just so fast. so strong already, still a teenager, but so strong, so fast, really good with the ball, left-footed. So the third division players were like, "Oh my god, a left-footed center back! What am I going to do with him?" And so he's got those things figured out. And Mika Faye, I feel like it's fair for him not to have been named to the Champions League roster, but like this is a kid that's going to do preseason with the first team next year, easy. Like he's going to definitely do preseason, and we'll see how many minutes he can get. And what has now become a very crowded center back pool.
Yeah, definitely. I expect for him to be included in the first team preseason next season as well. So for me, to be honest, it wasn't a big surprise of the level of Mika Fire because I knew about him a little bit at the Croatian second division. So when we
All
got
right,
that from
full voice. All right.
because when we got that Fabrizio Romano, here we go, I went crazy on Twitter. I said like, "Wow, incredible," or something over those lines. So I heard about him quite a bit before the all the hype from Barcelona fans and everything. So for me, it's not a big surprise that he has that physical appear like ability, technique, speed, tackling, defending, and everything. So, but still making that jump from Croatia to Spain is still difficult, and he has done a fantastic job at adapting, even without the adaptation period compared to someone like Noah who still struggles a bit. But of course, it's understandable because new country, new city, new people, new language. Not everyone can do it, but Mika done a fantastic job so far.
Yeah, so you actually just mentioned another player we were just about to bring up, the German wonderkin Noah Darvic, who was kind of, we'll say, the big signing for the academy over the summer because he was, highly touted coming over from Freiburg. He's played 4 Barça Athletic matches, 2 UEFA Youth League games, and he's been on the bench for 2 Barça Athletic matches. As well, he didn't play. He didn't get off the bench. So he hasn't really played that many minutes yet so far. And I think, yeah, it's the opposite, where you'd think that Noah Darvic for just highly touted, where you were wondering if he had stayed at Freiburg or had renewed with them, he might have been on the bench for first team games for Freiburg this season and maybe pushing into their right on the peripheral of their first team. And for Darvic, yes, certainly the adaptation period has been, the talent is there, the technique is there, but I think even in the UEFA Youth League, to me, what I wrote in my notes after watching the UEFA Youth League game was chemistry. Like it just doesn't seem like he's ever played with his teammates. Or to your point, the language thing. He's 16. He may physically like not know how to communicate with them yet. Like he's from Germany. Like there's a very high chance he doesn't just speak Spanish. Like he probably knows like he can speak in German, in English. I'm not sure what other languages he might know based on his background, but like at minimum he can get through those 2 languages, and he might not speak Spanish. So, and some of these kids might only, especially his teammates in the academy, might only also be like fluent in Catalan and also speak Spanish, but like they might be colloquially speaking Catalan as well. So it's like the language thing for me certainly is like 100%. If you're a midfielder who's expected to be at the center of everything, you've got to talk to everybody and really be the focus and the engine of everything. So for Noah Darvic, not to say like we're already saying like Cubarsi and Faye and they don't look out of place at all, but for Darvic, I'm totally willing not to give a report card for him until the summertime because I want to give him a full year. Because again, as highly touted as he was, he's high touted as 16-year-old though. Because like I take you back a few seasons ago, even when we're going to talk about Danny Rodriguez in a second, but like when Danny Rodriguez came in, I think he was 14 or 15 from Real Sociedad, one of the two. But when he came in, like he was like a name. They're like, oh, he's one of the big jewels of the Spanish youth systems or whatever. And like again, he's coming from Spain, and you wonder, oh, what's the adaptation period? And you got to give these kids a second. Like the kid is 16 years old. Um, okay, for a player that pleasantly surprised me here next, Hector Fort, the right back, who did struggle a bit last season. And I was wondering if Barça Athletic was going to be too high a level for him to start. He is still 17, I believe, or turning 18. But he's played in 7 Barça Athletic matches. He's got 1 goal, and he's played in 1 UEFA Youth League game. And I think very much like Alejandro Balde, like he has bounced back really well. And I'm stuck with 2 minds with him, where Barca would love to just be able to have a right back. Like I know they have Julian Araujo out there, and he's still just 22, playing for Las Palmas and doing well. But if you have a right back of the future ready for like next season or the year after at 18, 19 for Hector Fort, that would be really useful. And my question for you about Hector Fort is: Am I accidentally lumping him in with Cubarsi, and maybe we'll talk about Pernal and Prim in a second, but am I accidentally lumping him in with the other ones that I do see have first team potential? Or do you think he's that second tier down of players that might have first team potential, like, as we said, like Unai Hernandez or Mark Casado? Or do you think he's actually in that elite, like 16-year-old, not Lamine Yamal, but you know what I'm saying? Like that group of Pau Cubarsi and even Faye and ones, I mean, even again, Nova Darvic on paper, we're saying like those kids certainly should have the potential to maybe make the first team.
Yeah, well, for me, the Factor Fort is a very interesting story because for me, mostly I remember playing him as a center back for Cadet A, and then when he was promoted, he was, even though he was still was playing a few games at right back with under 16s. But most of the when he was promoted, he's with Juvenile A. He was playing at right back, and now, even though he didn't have the best Euro under 17 with Spain, but under with Barça Atletic, he has been fantastic so far. And for me, he's a bit below Pau Cubarsi in potential because there's still a lot of issues he needs to fix. But he's still young, he needs to work with Rafa Marquez, and I think he will be at least have the potential to enter first team in the future because with his concentration, he needs to work a bit with that mostly. But despite that, he showed that he has the work ethic and everything to make it.
Yeah, he's a 17-year-old, as you just said, who's in year two of a new position. I know they're similar, center back and right back, but it's year two of a new position, and he's already playing in a third division again at 17. So again, it's just like the rest of them are breaking our brains as to how fast you want to push them forward. So Hector Fort, yeah, I said, but it's also about timing too. So like timing wise, I mean, if he really gets it together, you're a year or two away from Barca saying, okay, I mean, maybe you do have more potential than Julian Araujo, or we don't have to go out and buy another fullback, though that does seem to be what the club wants to do. Now, speaking of high potential, let's talk about the defensive midfielder position or the pivot position. Marc Bernal is 16 years old. Pau Prim is 17. Bernal came, not to say out of nowhere, but he did because he was 15 the year before and playing for the U16. So, of course, I'm not covering him or worrying about him. Or he played for Cadet Bay for a lot last season too. And then, also moved to Cadet A. So he's playing for the U16. So I wasn't, like, he wasn't on my radar. Those are literally children. I mean, these are all children, but I mean, we're talking like children playing against other children. But yet, Marc Bernal is now the starting pivot for Barça Athletic. He has played 5 games already, has an assist, also was the pivot. This is the telling thing to me. They're a year apart. Bernal is 16, and Pau Prim feels like he's over it. He's still 17. He's still the pivot or defensive midfielder of the future, too. But it was telling to me that Pau Prim played as the interior on the right side, and he did drop in as a double pivot quite a bit and collect the ball. But Prim was, when Barca were attacking moving forward, it was Bernal as the pivot and Prim as the deeper interior. Think Romeo and Gundogan actually in the last game. That's kind of what we saw with that, with Prim being Gundogan in that situation. But then Prim has played 2 UEFA Youth League games, 4 Barca Athletic matches for 25 minutes. So 25 Barca Athletic minutes for Pau Prim, and again 5 games for Marc Bernal. And Bernal was one of those where over the summer, just like you, I had to do my homework. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, this kid not only is in Barça Athletic, but is 16. Another 16-year-old is going to play for Rafa Marquez. I had to get caught up, and I mean, physically the tools are there. He's tall. He turns quickly on the ball. He's a really good technical player. The only thing I saw from the UAE Youth League would be, and why I say why you're not seeing him around Xavi's first team yet this season. I think he has the potential. So to this point, Oro Romeo, I've been getting on him because he's not spraying those diagonal balls. It's like it's not coming quick enough. It's not happening. Bernal can do that, but it's just like the timing. Like the expectation is that it's like very much like Alba in his crossing. Sergio Busquets and those like long balls or diagonal balls out to the wings have completely broken my brain as to what to expect, right? And I think for Bernal, the potential is there to hit those passes. He just has to continue to speed up, how fast can he make these choices and decisions, but he makes the right ones. And I think that, again, is always key to me. Are you making the right choices? And then how fast are those happening? And I think he's making the right choices, and he just has to speed up how fast he's making them because he's doing the right things. And Yeah, I mean, what are you liking about Bernal so far? And as far as Pau Prima Mark Bernal, has your mind kind of changed as to? I mean, clearly the club has shown you who they're kind of, who they put their horses behind already.
Yeah, with Marc Bernal, his situation kind of reminds me of Nico because both of them started as attacking-minded midfielders, scoring goals and everything. Because Marc, for cadet teams, for the B and A, was constantly scoring goals. Like he was one of the top scorers for cadet B, also top scorer for cadet A last season as well. And like his main point as a midfielder was to carry the ball forward and then score or basically winning aerials and then score headers. And last season, I think it was the first season when he was converted into a pivot full time. So at first, you can see that he was like not very comfortable playing at pivot, sometimes lazy, not understanding his positions perfectly. Like the positioning as well was, but Rafa Marquez has done a fantastic job teaching him like those stuff as well. So combining that with his physique, ability on the ball, and everything, he has become like the best next pivot in the academy. Even though most of the people saw him as an interior or attacking midfielder because of his ability on scoring. With Pau Prim, he's like completely different pivot as well because he's two-footed. Well, technique wise, I think Pau Prim would be better than Bernal. But Pau Prim has also his issues too, that he needs to fix concentration, that he like made a mistake in the youth league as well. But again,
Mhm.
it's like you have to learn from mistakes and develop further. That's why you play at the academy and everything.
Yeah, so
So
Pau Prim actually reminds me of Sergi Semper when he was 16, 17. Because remember, his injuries didn't really start till like 18, 19. He was trying to get in the first team, but that he does remind me a bit more of the Sergi Semper, which for people who don't remember, he was tactically just very smart, very controlled. The ball kind of just flowed horizontally from side to side through him. And then defensively, that's kind of where some of the issues happen with Pau Prim's positioning. And Bernal has the physical tools, I think, to make up space a bit better than Prim does and close down counters a little bit better. And even just those tactical fouls, it seems like Bernal has that skill set a bit better than Prim. Prim seemed to me he just seems to be a step behind anyway for youth league when the ball's turned over and things like that. And I think learning positioning as well, like it's little things like that, like to be prepared to where you need to be in that rest defense. And I think then the argument really becomes, it's not really an argument. It's that which one will continue to improve. It seems like for Bernal, yeah, it's things like you question: can you improve your technique? Can you improve again how quick you make a decision, even if you're making the right one? Or how is that possible? And then for Preem, it's like, can you change some of your physical tools by being better prepared for certain situations? That would be my argument. But all right, so let's finish up Barcelona. Keep this moving. Um, Pacho Roman has played 5 matches and 2 assists for Barça Atletic. He is still just 19, the right winger from Argentina. And then Mamadou Fall is not played yet because of bureaucratic issues and paperwork and all that nonsense. So Mamadou Fall, this is tough. We're in middle of October here. He's on loan. It's like a €7 million buy option. Like the guy's gonna have to play. And I said it is just crowded with Faye now and Cubarsi and the center backs at the top, first team level. Like there's just a lot. There's a lot of guys that are now in front of him, and he's got to play. So I don't really have notes on that. Pacho Roman to me seems this year I think he's a step down from Astanis Pedrola. Like I think Pedrola was or Astanis was like a better player. I don't really see Pacho Roman making many appearances for the first team, but I think there's a way. But you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Carlos Perez at that same level in the same kind of way. And I think to me, Pacho Roman is good enough to be a first teamer somewhere, whether that's Italy. Again, he is Argentine, so the connections there make sense to me. Whether in Italy or Spain, I think there's a first team level for him in the next 2 years. But it's good to see he's at least like kind of figuring things out and being useful for Rafa Marquez.
yeah, with Pocho, he barely played last season. Even though he scored a goal, then he barely played after after that. So yeah, with Pocho, it's sad that he got injured while getting into the rhythm of playing games. Actually, be important for the team because this season has been like he has done well for himself, picking up 2 assists, almost similar ones, scoring with Pau Victor scoring both goals, and in a similar way, it was crazy because it was literally copy pasted the goal from both of them. Yeah, it's but regarding Mamadou Fall, it's kind of sad that he's still not playing despite it being already middle of October. But the expectations around everything that he should be available in the coming weeks or so. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So hopefully he hits the ground running, and we see what happens. And I mean, that's even a tough question for Rafa Marquez, right? Do you start Cubarsi? Do you start Faye? Do you start Mamadou? Like Ball? Like, yeah, who do you start? 2 of the 3. Now down to the UEFA Youth League here. Speaking of right wingers, I'm excited about though. No offense to Rahman, but Danny Rodriguez, 2 Barça Athletic matches for 36 minutes, so still kind of getting his feet wet at that level. But in the UEFA Youth League, that in those 2 matches, 1 goal, 1 assist, playing all 180 minutes. Sure, turned 18 in August, but he's tough because I do actually put him in that Hector Fort camp where I'm watching that UEFA Youth League, and I know it doesn't matter because Romario Barro, who actually just played for Porto, was arguably the best player for Porto the year they won it. So you can't, it's not the be all and end all at that level, but he's by far been the best player in both of those games. Like he is the guy that something is going to happen with the ball at his feet on that right wing. And it's difficult to translate your abilities from, the U19s up to the first team stuff, sure. But I think Danny Rodriguez, I don't want to speak. I'm like going back through our list, but going back through our list, I feel like Danny Rodriguez is I think he's the winger with the highest potential and closest to the first team of all these players. Like, even if it's not now, again, he just turned 18, but I think just projecting out, to me, he's a winger with the highest potential in the academy at the moment. And to me, I didn't want to put too much on him, but he's been as good as advertised the first 2 months.
Yeah, with Dani Rodriguez, it's a funny story because when he came to Barcelona from Real Sociedad Academy, he was an interior,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and he was incredible from the first time he joined the team. He was assisting, creating chances, scoring, and creating that partnership with now Real Madrid player Iker Bravo. Those two were unstoppable for Cadet. The problem with Dani Rodriguez, for me, I see him with more potential as like as an interior because he's still struggling at the wing positions. But again, I can still see why the coaches preferred him at the wing rather than at the interior because of his defensive lackness. Let's say that, like he doesn't strike a lot from the midfield, loses ball sometimes as he tries to do too much, and but he has been fantastic for Barcelona under 19 so far.
Yeah, and then also for the Barca UEFA Youth League, as I mentioned, Jakub has been the keeper in net. Uh, I have no notes on. He's been good. He's been a good goalkeeper. I think he's 18 or 17 or 17 or 18 somewhere around there. So yep, just fine. And then unfortunately, Alvaro Cortez went down. I thought he had a good UEFA Youth League center back next to Kubarsi pairing with him. He's out for the year. That is unfortunate for him, but hopefully he can come back next season. And then the other kind of name that we're just going to talk about individually before I throw the rest of the names at you. The one kid is training with the first team today, just turned 15 in June. Like, again, I don't want to do this. He's 15. I don't want to talk about him. He just turned 15 in June, and Xavi believes in him and is calling up the first team camp. So, I mean, first team training. So that's why I have to talk about him. Blame Xavi, not me. But Guille Fernandez has played 31 minutes in the UEFA Youth League. He's playing with the U19s. But, I mean, this kid is, I mean, you look at him and he doesn't look, physically, he doesn't look 15. And when I saw him in the UEFA Youth League, just for those 31 minutes, I mentioned it. Like, I'm not trying to overhype this kid, but there's those players in this game that when they receive the ball, you get it. You know it. Like they turn the way they're supposed to turn. They find their way out of pressure. They don't lose the ball. And it just seems like when they have the ball at their feet, something is going to happen. And this kid is that. I mean, this like again, I don't want to overhype this kid. I want to be cautious with it. He is 15. So I can't tell you when he'll be in the first team or when he'll make his first team debut or whatever. Like again, he's not playing with Barça Athletic at all yet. He's playing with the U19s at 15. He just turned 15 in June. Again, he's not 16 until next June. So he can't even like feature for the first team again until next June. Like, I mean, potentially physically he can be around the team, but like you don't really see kids get thrown in until they're 16 even. And Barca waited on Lamine Yamal to be 16. So yeah, Guille Fernandez. I mean, again, another one of those players that over the summertime, I put him in the academy update. I even featured him. He's like the first 15-year-old that I featured, and I was nervous about it because he just turned 15. I'm like, but hey, this kid is like they're saying this kid's like the next kid. So I'm mentioning him now, but through 2 months, I'm mentioning him again because now that I've seen him, even in UEFA Youth League, which is 4 years older players than he is, and yet he looks like he looks like he knows exactly what's happening, exactly what he needs to do, and physically already like he's like taller than the rest of them, looks stronger than the rest of them, and when genetics meets talent like that, they're not too young, and 15 is still too young. I don't know. I get flustered with these kind of players.
Yeah, with Guille, like who follow La Masia, you know that he was like the next big thing after Lamine Yamal, also following the footsteps of the winger, getting promoted from infantile A straight to cadet A, jumping categories, and then again jumping from cadet A to juvenile A. So that's like two promotions right after another that you're playing above the category, you know. So yeah,
Yeah,
one on the
content. That's U14 to U16 to U19. That's going
yeah.
from playing against 14-year-olds to playing against 19-year-olds in 2 years. Like that's insane.
Yeah, well, with his physique, it helps a bit, you know. So yeah,
Mhm.
and with the ball, he's also fantastic. With his ability and everything, how he sees the game, how he protects the ball, how he tries to combine with other players, he tries to speed up. As you mentioned, whenever he has the ball, you think that something might happen, you know, can happen. And yeah, well, with Gile is also a funny story that I managed to talk to him a bit about, like, get like a bit of questions about his personal stuff. So let's say that he admires Pedri a lot from Barcelona, so he tries sometimes to replicate what Pedri does for the first team. So yeah.
Well, I will say the places that he set himself up for the youth league in that high right interior spot, I I'm not comparing him to Pedri, but like positionally, you can see where some of those influences might have come from for sure. All right, so finishing up the youth league talk, and then we're almost out of here. There were some unheralded players who I haven't really mentioned on the updates, anything like that, who maybe could get some more attention because again, like it for these kids, it really is competition, with each other, but against each other as well. Like there's only so many spots and different players. Not every player can be playing 2 or 3 levels up, right? It's like only one or two get to play the 2 or 3 levels up, but for the players kind of at the U19 level is kind of what we're talking about here in UEFA Youth League. Cristo Munoz, Andres, who's I want to say an interior. He is a right or left interior. Andres Cuenca, who is the UEFA Youth League center back, now that Cortes has gone down, and Cubarsi, his partner. Danny Avila, who is kind of the other pivot behind Preem and Bernal, a defensive midfielder, can also play center back. Albert Navarro is the left back for the UEFA Youth League team, and then Alexis Almedo is kind of a center back, right back situation as a backup there. And then the captain for the UEFA Youth League is Neil Cardero, who is a right winger. Of those names that I threw at you, and I gave you the position as well, which one kind of jumps out to you as a player that, again, we weren't really talking about, that isn't really on anybody's radars yet, but could be by the end of the year?
Well, one of them is definitely Andres Cuenca. Well, he made another, also one of the promotions who got promoted from under 16 straight to under 19s.
Mhm.
Also left footed, good with the ball, amazing Kevin. Like he also created an assist in the youth league, if I remember correctly. So he's definitely one of those to keep an eye on. And for me, like very underrated winger because he always performs, always creates scores for his teams is Neil Calderon, because usually like people don't talk about it, but the way he contributes to the team is underappreciated by the fans a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, Neil Cordero. Yeah, I think he's just a sturdy right winger. I'm not sure what his ceiling is. I think he's. I mean, even he
Yeah.
might be 17 or 18 or whatever he is too. All right. So last little thing here before we go, we, we there's only so many names I can throw at you. But though I have just a few here. If we haven't gone too long, we can worry about these other names here that you want to mention that I had as honorable mentions in the La Masia summer update because again, with how many talented players there are, and with 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds already in the first team, I don't need to worry too much about Cadet A and the U16s, right? Like if you're at that level, then there's a lot of players even your age that are already kind of above you on the depth chart. But there's a few other names here that I want to hit real quick. Kim Juniet, the interior, he's playing for the U16s. I believe he's a right interior. Oscar Gustavo, you already mentioned, center forward, scoring goals already. And then Pedro Fernandez, who I think is only 14 years old, which, again, just absurd that we're doing this. But yeah, just a little thing on each of those players, because it seems like there are three names that the stock could rise very quickly for the three of them.
Yeah, definitely. With Quim, I would say invest in Quim as fast as possible because he was promoted to Juvenil B officially, but he is already playing with the under 19 team. So yeah, he
And
will be
that's
quite
15,
an
right? He's
sorry,
15 or 16, maybe 15 or 16,
16,
16.
16. Yeah. So yeah. With Oscar Gustavo, he also was playing with players older than him, so another like striker together with Tony Fernandez also. They played together for the number 9 position. So those are like the strikers that scoring goals for Juvenil B. And with Pedro Fernandez, he's Spain international under 15s. Very interesting player to like. You can enjoy him in the future as well. So those are the players to keep an eye in the future as well.
For sure. And then the last two, I do get questions about Nico Takahashi, the 18-year-old Japanese left back, and then João Mendes, the son of Ronaldinho. And it seems like those two players are just kind of at the level they're at. I mean, they're not like, not saying they're not special, but they're not also like, there's nothing wrong with them. Like, João Mendes is just, he's fine. Like, he's just at the level. He's a rotation piece for, I believe, the U18s. And Nico Takahashi is at the U19 level, the U18 level. You can fill me in on that. But yeah, I mean, I think because of the nature of their names, people kind of want to bring them up, but I don't find them to be, I think they're just at the level that they're at, and that's totally fine.
Well, with Nico, he was considered quite a big talent for the left back positions. Also plays constantly for the Japan under 20s. However, I think he's now injured. That's why he's not playing right now. With how Mendes, let's say, I haven't seen enough of him because he barely played official games or even friendlies. So I think he played a few minutes last game after he replaced injured Alvaro Cortez. But so far, let's say that I haven't been impressed with How Mendes, but we still need to see more of him with the under 19s.
Yeah, I mean, like, not to say that defending him or at all, but like again, he's a U18s player. Like, it's not like he was given a first team spot or didn't cost €1 million, whatever it was. He's a Juvenile Bay player, and he very much like players who again coming from different places. He likely doesn't speak, and he might speak Spanish because of his dad. So that's the only thing. Like, he might actually be able to speak Spanish already because of Ronaldinho. But he could also just mainly only speak Brazilian though, because he grew up in Brazil. So there's a chance that he's not it's an adaptation period for him as well. But again, he wasn't a huge prospect out of Brazil. It's just you do goodwill for your ambassadors and whatever. Nepotism exists. I don't know. I don't care about that. So anyway, the thing I do care about though is where people can find you, follow along with your work, and make sure they get those awesome La Masia updates.
So you can find me on Twitter, ArsenkveFCB, also on Instagram, the same handle, and on YouTube, where you can find the YouTube compilations of the players on the season highlights or some matches. Also, you can watch Barça Athletic live on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, so doing the good work that is needed to help people like me fill everything in, so we can have these conversations. So it was a delight to have you. We'll have you back. I don't know if these kids keep playing as well as they are, and Xavi keeps bringing them up, then we'll have you back sooner than later. But if not, yeah, we'll keep in touch. And it was a pleasure having you. Again, follow his stuff down in the show notes or in the YouTube description, and you can follow along with him for all those updates. And then us at the Barcelona Pod, everywhere you find us, or the Barcelona Podcast, one of the two, everywhere you can find us on all those different channels and platforms as well as the Patreon and the merch store, all that stuff. Most importantly, though, thanks for listening to the show. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Forza Barça.